Okay, so now I'm going to go over the multiple phases involved in performing a request, basically, or accepting a request. From accepting the request all the way through ending the trip, and all the steps that are involved in it, tips and tricks and suggestions on how to make the most of the ride and keep your rating up. So first things first, when you accept a request, check the pickup location on your app because there are multiple possibilities whenever you get a request. First possibility is that you'll get a range that'll look like some address 123 to 456 Main Street. It won't be an exact address. Whenever you see the address looking like this, where it's a range, that typically means the person just hit the request Uber button and they did not put an exact address. So this means that they're relying on GPS to find their location, and GPS isn't always accurate. Sometimes it's off by a few blocks. There are times where it's off by a few miles. So whenever you see an address range like this, it's always a good idea to call or text the passenger ahead of time to confirm their location. You want to make sure you're going to the correct spot. The other possibility is you'll get an exact address. For example, 123 Main Street. When this happens, that usually means the passenger has manually entered the address into their phone and has given you the exact address. This is usually the correct address to go to, but it's still a good idea to call the passenger ahead of time, call or text ahead of time to make sure that you've got the correct address. Because even in this case, sometimes they may have entered the wrong address. There are times where they've entered their destination instead of their pickup location. You obviously don't want to go to the destination because they're not there yet anyway. So it's always a good idea to contact them ahead of time. Make sure you know where you're going because it'll save you a lot of time and a lot of headache and a lot of energy and money because you're spending all that gas getting there, and it'll be good for you and both the passenger as well. And remember, you're not paid until you start the trip. You're not paid until the passenger gets in your car and you begin the trip. So don't waste your time going to the wrong spot. When you get that request, if it looks a little strange or you're not entirely sure, contact the passenger ahead of time. It can't hurt, and if anything, it'll let the passenger know that you're actively on their request and you're trying to find them and you're on top of it, and they'll appreciate that. Lastly, this can raise your rating because you're basically going above and beyond your duty to make sure that you make this experience as smooth and efficient as possible for the passenger. By not doing this, just assuming that the address on the app is correct and assuming that's where they are, and you just drive there and you realize they're not there or something, that could really create a headache and it could really be upsetting and frustrating because you're like, why aren't they here? I just wasted all this time and gas. It happens a lot, so it's always a good idea just to contact them ahead of time. That'll make sure that you're both in the same boat and things are going well, and they'll appreciate it, and most likely they'll give you a higher rating because you're making sure that the trip is going efficiently from the beginning.